Can I Not Marry audio web novel chapter 24. Days of isolation with the president. 1 hour. Victim student Du Lacey still foolishly followed the criminals around, completely unaware that she had walked into the trap that the president had set up early that morning. The moment she woke up, the free accommodation, 7 days hotel quarantine tour had its arms wide open waiting for her. Deceiving her to the airport, deceiving her to the hotel, and even causing her, the lively healthy young women, to be isolated. This time being imposed by the president was a premeditated and purposeful, and it's a nature of serious fraud. This time, Du Lacey was really angry. How can you do that? Du Lacey strongly protest, you clearly knew you had to be isolated, and yet you seek me as a scapegoat, you really have gone too far. She didn't think the president would ask, where have I gone too far? He still had the face to ask where he has gone too far. In fact, it was everywhere. Du Lacey angrily said, you are your own boss, of course you don't need to worry, but I'm only a small staff. To stay here for 7 days is equivalent to earning 7 days of wage. Do you know how much is 7 days of wage? Lian Jun raised his eyebrow. How much? Originally Du Lacey wanted to say $300, but in order to make things appear more serious, she overstated by another $200, $500. Du Lacey held out 5 fingers. I'll pay you twice as much. What did he say? Du Lacey was slightly stunned. Are you handing money over to me? That's right. How much will you lose for 7 days of work? I'll pay you double. How does that sound? Du Lacey was stunned silence. She never thought that the president could be so generous. If she knew earlier she would have asked for a little more. What? You don't want it? Want? Du Lacey quickly said the following words. Originally 7 days can only earn her $300. Now she freeload at the hotel for 7 days and take $1,000. Deducting the $20 cow cart fee and the $50 taxi fee, she could still earn $630. Just the thought of $630 glistening silver flying into her pocket, Du Lacey's anger was eliminated in half. She couldn't help but cheer up. But I have a request. Lian Jun suddenly changed the subject. Du Lacey, who has been immersed in a bubble of happiness, was interrupted by Lian Jun's words. She was somewhat stunned. What are the requirements? Since these 7 days I'm paying you, then I am your boss. These 7 days you have to listen to me. Cow. Indeed, a capitalist never let himself be at disadvantage. Du Lacey gritted her teeth. In her heart she severely condemns the evil capitalists 100 times over and over again. What? You won't agree? Who said I won't agree? Du Lacey gritted her teeth again. I request another $500 on top. Since they would be isolated separately, what can he ask her to do? Making a few calls to brighten his boredom. Okay. Lian Chun agreed. Then from now on I am your boss. Okay. Why does she feel slightly self-conscious? You won't regret it. No. I won't regret it. Why does she feel slightly guilty? His deep black eyes flashed a hint of meaningful smile. Then Lian Jun slowly said, okay, let's go then. Coming out of the elevator, there are already medical personnel at the door of the room. One glance you could tell the doctors weren't a mere GP. Sure enough. As they walked to the front, the middle-aged head doctor in white coat respectfully bowed to Lian Jun. President Lian, due to special circumstances, we had to delay your trip. I am sorry. It's the first time she has seen a person receiving an apology for being quarantined. On the side, Du Lacey observed the president's reaction. Lian Jun nodded. These days, is there any particular thing we should pay attention to? Before we departure, we will measure your wife and your body temperature. Then after this we will send someone to take your temperature every morning. If there isn't any abnormal temperature within 7 days, then you too will be released. On the side Du Lacey, though, it was perfectly normal. At this time, a doctor who was standing on the side came over with the thermometer, quickly took Du Lacey's temperature, then fill out some of her basic physical condition. After everything was done, the doctor also left, walking out of the room. Suddenly, Du Lacey thought that something was wrong. She softly spoke. Lian Jun didn't pay her any attention and began to unbutton his suit. Thinking that the president didn't hear her, Du Lacey leaned over and deliberately raised her voice. At that time Lian Jun have taken off his coat, in the middle of undoing his tie. I think. What's the matter? Lian Jun stopped his movements, followed by a killer glaze. How can taking off a tie produce such strong aura? Du Lacey recomposed herself, putting on a flattering smile. She said, I just wanted to ask, where will I sleep? There. Lian Jun pointed to the inside of the room. Du Lacey froze. It was a long time before she tried to vainly say, then, where will you sleep? There. The president's finger still pointed in one direction. This time, Du Lacey was embarrassed and weakly said, over there, appears to only have one room. And? Lian Jun asked. And? There's only one bed. And then, Du Lacey finally gritted her teeth, and cruelly shouted the truth, I don't want to sleep on the floor. The president evoked a smile on his lips. Who said I was going to make you sleep on the floor? Du Lacey was stunned. Then, you want to sleep there? After she said this, the smile on the president's lips disappeared. How dare you ask me to sleep on the floor? No, that's not it. Du Lacey continuously shook her head. For a moment she thought something wasn't quite right. You are not sleeping on the floor. I'm not sleeping on the floor. Then we sleep on the bed. Boom. Du Lacey's head exploded. No way. I don't want to sleep with you. Du Lacey didn't think before blurting this out. What are you talking about? Lian Jun's face instantly changed from sunny to cloudy, and overcast with a storm coming. I said I don't want you to suffer and squeeze into one bed with me. After Du Lacey finished speaking, Du Lacey mentally slapped her own mouth. Du Lacey, how can you not having any principle? Lian Jun's expression calmed down. I don't mind. He said and added the following words, besides it's not the first time. Swish. Du Lacey's face turned red. Obviously it was the president who's forcing her to sleep in the same bed as him. At that moment, Du Lacey low EQ suddenly had an epiphany. Could it be the president want to eat her tofu? 1. The common saying of eating tofu is related to the story of tofu shishi. How the story came by. Shishi was the name of a beautiful woman from the spring and autumn period 770 to 476 BC, who was presented by Fu Chai, the king of Wu, to Gojian, the king of Yue. Shishi then became a popular term for referring to beautiful woman, which is how it continues to be used today. Tofu shishi refers to Yang Ersao, a character from the novel Guxiang, written by Lu Xun. Yang is the owner of a tofu shop. She is young, beautiful and has flawless skin because she eats tofu all the time. She entices and flirts with men in order to sell more tofu. These men always go to her tofu shop under the guise that they are just going there to eat tofu, in order to flirt with her. Over time, the idiom, eating tofu, came into use to refer to a man taking advantage of a woman. How to use it in a sentence. Be careful, this idiom has a softer meaning in contemporary China and is generally only used in casual contexts, making it unsuitable for use in formal conversation. It is commonly used by men in a humorous manner during potentially embarrassing situations. For example, if a man accidentally brushes the chest of an attractive woman whilst on a bus, he may then use the phrase to apologize her as such, sorry, I did not mean to eat your tofu. When Du Lacey thought to this point, she was frightened by her own ideas. Why would the president want to eat her tofu? So as they say, eating white tofu constantly, occasionally you would want to taste the smell of stinky tofu. Phooey. How can she be stinky tofu? She is a delicate and tender, a smooth piece of soft tofu. You overestimate yourself. The problem is that the president who constantly eat tofu lacks professional ethics. Clearly she was the one who was at disadvantage, yet he could turn things around and made it appear as if she forced him, eating his tofu instead. Fei, someone wants to eat my tofu. The resentment in Du Lacey exploded. Taking advantage of the president taking a shower, Du Lacey began sending text messages to Zhu Yaofei. After a while, Zhu Yaofei's replied message came. who's so bored, even wants to eat your tofu. Du Lacey's little pride suffered a blow and argued back. This person is dictatorial, overbearing, shameless, a man in beast clothing, worse to the extreme point. Generally a beast in human clothing looks more beautiful. Well, he really good looking. Is he rich? There is a lot of money. After a while, before Du Lacey got Zhu Yaofi's reply, she received a call from her instead. When she picked up the call, Zhu Yaofi's scolding came through. A man who's rich and handsome, you don't eat his tofu. Why ain't you eating his tofu first? You're so silly. This powerful wave of earthquake finally made Du Lacey regain her conscience. After a long time she suddenly realized, oh. Why didn't she eat the president's tofu instead?